James Gunn is now officially the top boss of the newly formed DC Studios. Now, initially I didn't know how to react to this news. But as time went on and I began to think more and more about this whole idea, I came to the conclusion that this is the best thing to ever happen to DC and Warner Brothers. If you are a fan of DC, I think this should be something to celebrate about. Before starting this video, I would like to quickly request you to subscribe to my channel. These videos need a lot of research to be made, and your subscriptions are my only motivation to keep making them. To understand why James Gunn is the best man for DC at the moment, we have to take a look at the previous DC universe and how it failed, which eventually led to this whole reboot and ultimately ended up giving James Gunn the highest responsibility. The Snyderverse was great. I am going to be the first one to admit that. I thoroughly enjoyed each of the three movies: Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and the Snyder Cut. However, it's not about me liking those movies. You have to realize that. Ultimately, it's about how many people around the world come to watch those movies in theaters. It's the box office numbers that matter. And the box office numbers say that the DCEU was not as successful as its primary competitor MCU or even some of the previous DC movies, which earned more money even if they were made on a much smaller budget. Maybe it was the studio interfering with the movies or any other reason, but the bottom line is those movies couldn't generate as much money as they should have. Firstly, if you look at Ben Affleck's Batman, he has already spent 20 years in Gotham. We do not know, or neither does anyone care to show us, what he did in those 20 years or how Robin was killed. We do not get to see the full arc of his Batman. And as a result, we cannot relate to his version as much as we did for Christian Bale's version or Michael Keaton's version. Now, do not get me wrong. I loved his version of Batman. But I am talking from a neutral perspective. He is just a broken man in BVS who straight up murders criminals in cold blood. This is where James Gunn is so much better with his approach. He has made it clear that he wants to slowly build up the whole Bat family and focus on each and every character. In this way, when we see the full journey of a character, we can relate to him. And I am certain that James Gunn's Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold, will be one of the best Batman movies to be ever put to screen. Secondly, DC movies are never meant to be so dark as Zack Snyder made his movies. DC Comics contains characters which are very dark and gritty, and also characters which are light-hearted and fun. For example, you have to create an atmosphere where both Batman and Shazam, or let's say Peacemaker, can coexist. I can totally see Batman existing in Snyder's world, but how can you expect someone like Blue Beetle or Peacemaker or Booster Gold to exist in that extremely dark and sad universe? This is where James Gunn is so good at. In fact, he is the master of this art. If you look at his Guardians movies, he made those characters of Rocket, Groot, Drax, and Gamora the very backbone of the Infinity Saga of the MCU. Those characters can fit into a world which is lighthearted, fun, and goofy, and at the same time, they can also exist in a powerful and depressing movie like Infinity War. So, I think the world building in the new DC universe is going to be extremely well made, and I am so excited to find out. Another reason why I really like James Gunn's vision is that he is looking at a long-term plan. He has already made it clear that he wants a Superman actor who is below the age of 30. So, that means he has a roadmap of somewhere around 20 to 25 years in his mind for the new DC universe. This is why he is so good. On the other hand, the movies in the Snyderverse felt like they were already approaching the end with all that post-apocalyptic Darkseid stuff. You do not introduce a villain like Darkseid in just your third movie. He is the most powerful villain in the DC universe and should have been introduced at least after a decade after Man of Steel. And it is needless to say that a director who can make a walking tree and a talking raccoon such iconic characters in pop culture today is nothing less than an extraordinary genius person, and I am so excited to see how his vision unfolds in the near future. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel for every small update related to the Flash movie. And yes, please also press the bell icon.